I wasn't doing any investing or anything like that. Really, the only investment, or I would say like self-help style knowledge that I had was from reading the books Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I read a lot of Dave Ramsey, Automatic Millionaire, stuff like that. And everything that I had done up until that point was essentially take from my daily, like the things I wanted to do daily so that I could save. And I bought a house out in California, in a little town called Imperial Beach in about like 2011. We sold it in 2014. And I put $40,000 in my pocket. I was 22 years old.
Holding on to every single property that we bought everywhere we moved. You know, we're in the military. You're looking at anywhere from 3 to 5 years. You know, we're looking at a new location. So got some orders and we had to leave.
This is the Multifamily Journey Podcast, show 35.
You're listening to the Multifamily Journey Podcast. In this show, you'll hear industry experts share tips of success and failure from their real estate investing journeys. You'll get a transparent look behind the curtain while you learn to fulfill the lifestyle you want to live and achieve your wealth goals. Get ready for the journey to financial freedom through investing in multifamily real estate. Here's your host, Blake Dailey.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Multifamily Journey Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Dailey, and got a good show for you today. We've got two active duty Navy guys who are doing really well, investing in real estate on the side, even from across the world on deployment. So really good stuff today. Got on Joey Biccum and Ramsey Blankenship. They're partners in Real Focus Capital, and they're focusing on multifamily and some now hotel acquisitions. And I think it's a cool little strategy we talk about in the show today, how their focus isn't only on multifamily because it's a really competitive market, but they've also branched out to similar asset classes, something I'm doing very similar with the B I'm doing. So I think this is really good stuff today. So both these guys started off in the residential space and really out of necessity with moving around with the military. So they had to learn buying and selling because they were, the Navy was moving them around. So Ramsey started off house hacking, had to convince his wife. Love that part of the conversation because I can relate. And then Joey got started by selling and then rolling that into the next house when he got here to Panama City Beach. So he's actually in my market. So that's cool. And from there, they've done residential, they've done multifamily, they've done short-term rentals together, and now even a hotel where it's this owner-operated motel that they're buying in Louisiana. Pretty cool. And today, in today's show, we talk about the 5 revenue drivers that make real estate so powerful. So this is a really good topic, one of the best chunks that we've had in the show because it really highlights the power of real estate, all the ways you can make money and just so powerful. And I actually have on multifamilyjourney.com a blog that you can check out that talks about all those in detail. So, you got your forced appreciation, your market appreciation, your equity pay down. So all those things, you can check that out at multifamilyjourney.com/blog. And then we get into this new hotel purchase. And this came, interestingly enough, from Ramsey's personal network. This didn't come from marketing or from a broker. He just made a Facebook post and let people know that he was in real estate, that, he's looking for multifamily deals. And somebody in his personal network said, hey, we got this. My mom is selling this hotel. Would you be interested? And that led to this purchase. So just by telling people what you're doing, you can find deals. Yeah, that's this show and a little bit what's going on in my life right now. Still dealing with a really tough seller, and it's a funny story. These guys actually dealt with this seller before, and he killed their deal here in Panama City, and he's trying to do the same thing to mine right now. It's like the hardest seller I've ever dealt with. Just got another offer back on a 14 unit. I got some revised clauses and stuff in the contract from my attorney. So I got to review that. That's on a 14 unit. That'll be another B here in Panama City Beach. So really enjoying this strategy, finding good deals on it right now. So pursuing that heavily and continuing on with the rehab from the 8 unit. I had to fire a contractor recently, but I've since got that back on track. Had to hire my own architect, got those drawings going. So we're getting back on track there. And, yeah, that's been a frustration that's kind of been hounding me, but nothing to do but press forward. Can't just stop mid-project. So we're getting back on track, and I think it's still going to work out. It's just the frustration in the rehab period. So yeah, and also check the show notes of this episode for the links we talk about on some of the places you can find data when looking for markets. That was really good stuff when Ramsey and Joey break down how they find their data and find their markets. So that's really valuable stuff for you guys. And just before we get in the show, guys, if you like this, please leave a rating and review. That's huge. I would really appreciate it. Your mom, your grandma, your whole family would really appreciate it. So leave a 5-star rating on iTunes. And yeah, leave a review. But with that, that's all I got. So let's get into the show. All right, guys, welcome to the podcast. We got a duo show tonight, which are some of my favorites. So we got Ramsey and Joey. Welcome to the Multifamily Journey Podcast.
Hey, Blake. Thanks for having us, man. Happy to be here.
What's going on, man?
Hey, it's good to have you guys. So why don't we just get right into like, how did you each get started in real estate? And then we can get into how you guys, found your union, your holy matrimonial partnership.
All right, Blake. So I got started. So first of all, I'm active duty military. I'm an enlisted guy, and I was stationed out in San Diego, California. Whenever I wasn't doing any investing or anything like that. Really, the only investment, or I would say like self-help style knowledge that I had was from reading the books Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read a lot of Dave Ramsey, Automatic Millionaire, stuff like that. And everything that I had done up until that point was essentially take from my daily, like the things I wanted to do daily so that I could save. And I bought a house out in California, a little town called Imperial Beach, in about like 2011. We sold it in 2014, and I put $40,000 in my pocket. I was 22 years old. And I remember looking at my wife. I was like, "We're rich, babe. Like we could retire right now, right?"
Yeah, that's not bad at 22. Huh?
And but I was at that point. I thought I knew something, but what I had to go back to was the Rich Dad Poor Dad thought process, and that wasn't an investment. I just got lucky, right? Like that just happened for me. I didn't make that happen. So when we moved down to Panama City, Florida, which is where I met Joey, me and Joey were instructors at the dive school together. I told my wife that I wanted to buy a duplex or a triplex or something like that and live in one of the units and rent the rest of them out. And my wife was like, "No, we're not doing that." Right. And I kind of crushed my dreams because I'd always believed that would be a smart way to live, especially when we're young. But she said she didn't want to share a wall with anybody. We have got kids, a growing family, stuff like that. And I didn't hear no. I heard yes, but, right. And that but was, but I don't want to share a wall. Mm. So I went hunting on the MLS. I went and talked to some agents, and I tried to find a property down in Panama City that had a house that we could live in as a family, but also had some sort of additional income. Yeah. Nowadays
that's
they call it a
right
house
now.
hack,
It's a great strategy, especially when you have a wife. I tell people that all the time. Like they're talking about house hack and they're like, "It's my wife that won't let me do it." I'm like, "Man, look, this is what you got to find." So this is perfect. There's a lot of people I think this will apply to.
Exactly. And if you approach life as it's not a no, it's a yes, but you figure out what comes after that, but you'll figure out how to get to yes, right?
Yeah, I tell you what, the only people who can give you like more no's than like a banker trying to get a new loan is your wife, right? You got to make them happy and check all the boxes for them.
Well, it's good because, at least in my household, I'm always dreaming big, thinking outside the box, looking 10 years down the road. But my wife really grounds me into what's important today. Like, Ramsey, go to bed. Ramsey, you got to eat. Ramsey, spend some time with the kids. It's like I'm sitting here thinking about this.
Yeah, I think we live
pie in the sky stuff. And, I need her to ground me back to reality every now and then. But on this one, I was pretty hard on it. I knew that it was a good financial decision. I figured we could make it work. So we found there's a little area in Panama City called the Cove. And we found a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, hardwood floors, had the 2-car garage, had a yard out back, fence for the dogs, everything that we needed. But on the back of it, it had 2 little 1-bedroom, 1-bath cottages, and they had alley access. You barely even knew they were there. And my realtor showed it to me, and I fell in love. I was like, I got to buy this place. So brought my wife there, gave her a tour, didn't even show her the stuff on back, and asked her what she thought about it. She's like, this will work. We can live for it. It's a house. I said, great, let's buy it. Right. So right before we closed, I showed her there was a window out the kitchen, looked out back, and I said, "What do you think about the neighbors back there?" And she goes, "They look like neighbors to me." And I said, "Exactly right. We can live like this." She says, "Ramsey, we're going to have neighbors." I said, "You're exactly right. We are going to have neighbors, but I want you to know that those neighbors pay $650 a month each."
That's awesome.
For us to live here. So the mortgage was $1,200. We were pulling in $1,300. When my wife realized that we were getting paid $100 to live in the big house while the people in the little house paid us to do so, that was like the paradigm shift for her.
Yeah.
And that's whenever we really started buying into real estate. And after that, I pretty much got full permission to to jump headfirst into real estate. Started buying duplexes, started buying triplexes, quadplexes, got into commercial, started investing out of state, just really started getting comfortable with getting uncomfortable. And all of that happened in Panama City. And now I'm out in San Diego, California. And we did the same thing, bought a house, converted the downstairs into a house hack. Like, I will never be above a house hack. I don't think it's just it's free money. It's just
that's awesome. I want to pull that out because that's such a great strategy and such a really good point to pull out right now, because you got to find those deals, especially in a market like San Diego, to house hack and to, offset your mortgage. And even in Panama City, where it's expensive, rental rates are really high, to find those extra
crazy high.
Yeah, crazy.
That wasn't the case in 2015 either. They were not. It was not near as high as it is now. So
now so you bought it in 2015. How much that rents are probably much higher, especially after the hurricane. They just rents do that. They go up over time. But to find like diamonds in the rough, to find those properties that everybody else isn't looking for, because everybody is on the market looking for a duplex house hack, a triplex, or a quadplex that they know everybody's hearing this on another podcast. You got to buy a 2 to 3 unit. But they completely disregard like that. A lot of times anyway, is the house with the basement that can be converted, or the unit in the back that can be rented out. That's exactly what I have. Like right here, I'm looking at it. That unit pays for our whole mortgage and, all the way down to like the Wi-Fi. So we don't have living expenses to live in the home. So it's
almost criminal how how good of an idea. If you want to get started in real estate, it's a great place to start. It doesn't have to be a completely detached unit. You can just rent out one of your bedrooms short term. Yeah. There's even apps right now. You can rent out your pool. You can rent out space in your yard. Just run an extension cord and a water hose out there for people to pull in and park their RV for cheaper than the local RV park. If you own something, you can make money from renting it to people, especially in today's day and age.
Yeah. We have a 30-foot trailer on the side of our house that I've thrown the idea out there to rent that on Airbnb. Unique little stay. But we use it too much. We're gone almost every other weekend. So we had to throw that one out the window.
That's nice. Well, Joe, now you're pitched in. How did you get started? We got off on a tangent on house hacking.
Yep. So, it was first comes love, then comes marriage, the baby carriage, and all that stuff, and plus a house. So we were up in Virginia Beach, newlyweds, just had a baby, bought a house, big, beautiful home. Thought we needed all this square footage. Found out quickly we didn't have nearly enough things to fill it. But we fell in love with the house. There was an emotional attachment to it. We had our kids there, both of them. And we really loved it. And we always had the idea of holding on to every single property that we bought everywhere we moved. We're in the military. You're looking at anywhere from 3 to 5 years. We're looking at a new location. So got some orders and we had to leave. And we didn't have enough equity in the home. It wasn't a smart decision to sell. Put it up for rent. Had a renter come in there. So I actually became an accidental real estate investor. So I had this warrant officer come in. He was a really good friend during that time. Great business relationship. And he rented from me for probably right around 3 years. Had picked up another home during that time. And he said, "Joey, I really like this house. I want to buy it." And he's like, "Is it for sale?" And I said, "Everything's for sale, man. It's just a matter if you can pay the number." Yeah. So I threw a number at him. He wasn't happy with what it was. And I was like, "Hey man, let's just shake hands, part ways as friends, and, continue on. Everything else is going good." Fast forward another year or so, he approached me again. I kind of gamed him a little bit. Not going to lie. I knew he was getting ready to leave for a deployment. His wife was having a kid. So, I threw it out there again. I said, "Hey, I know you're getting ready to leave and you're coming up on your lease. I offered to him, do you want to buy? And he said, I think I do. So I hit him with a price, same price as I did the last time. And he said, okay, that's fair. He's like, but you have to pay all the realtors. I was like, we don't need a realtor. We've done all of the work already that a realtor will do.
Yeah.
If you want one, go ahead and get one, but I'm not paying that commission. You can out of your pocket. So I brokered the whole deal, worked with a titling agency up there, did a lot of research. And that's really when the light bulb went off about, this really isn't this difficult of a game. You can really get in here with little to zero education, get on Google and find everything you need to know in order to make these transactions and trade property just like you do in Monopoly. So long story short on that one, I had a renter rent from me for close to 4 years. Paid my mortgage, principal pay down, put money in my pocket, and then bought the house full asking price with no realtor fees. And it was a win-win all around for us. He wasn't too happy when I guess up in Virginia, they actually get to show the money that goes back to the seller. He wasn't too happy to see the amount that was going back in my pocket, but it is what it is. So we moved down here to Virginia Beach, and we picked up another single family. And that's when I met Ramsey. During that time, he had just picked up his cottages in the Cove, I believe, or his Molitor properties. That's what it was. And he had a bunch of construction work going on, and that's my background. I'm a CB construction worker in the Navy, and he had a couple things going on. I said, "Yeah, man, I can do it." He couldn't afford me at the time. So he's like, nah, dude, we're not doing this.
$75 an hour in Panama City. He wanted to charge me. I was like, bro, no.
You want quality work on time?
I said the same thing.
So
put an ad out there on Craigslist.
Who do you think you are, Joey? You're trying to pitch me.
So he's like, man, get out of here. Anyway, we became really good friends during that time. He was the neighboring office to me, and we kind of played pranks on each other all the time. But, that's kind of really how it started. We picked up another home down here in Panama City Beach. I was a chief petty officer at the time, picked up a commission, and I had to leave. Hurricane Michael hit, and I needed to get someone in my property. So all these different things were going on at the same time. Got some renters in there, and we picked up another single family home during that time frame. And, since then we've been cash flowing on our properties pretty well. And I drive by these apartment complexes on the way to work. I'm sure you see them right there. The 10X properties right there in Panama City.
He's got two of them. Both of them run there at 98.
Yeah. So I see him every day. And, Ramsey would be in the office talking to one of his mentors at the time. And he's talking about syndications and apartments. And I was just like, man, that's too big, man. You're crazy. How do we break into that space? How do we know what's going on? So I found active duty passive income at the time, jumped on there, started my multifamily journey as far as the education goes. And that was probably
that multifamily journey. You're on it.
So it took about two years, to get where we are today. And I think I called Ramsey, and he's like, dude, that's so weird that you called me. Check this thing out. And it was a 17 unit in Panama City Beach. And this kind of is like, that marriage, if you will, or that love affair that you talked about a second ago.
Yeah, so this is the first one. This is the first one you guys started working on together and created something out of.
So Ramsey has this he's an artist. He puts stuff on paper. He has a great way with picturing what it's going to look like at the end. And he put together this, this little pitch deck, probably from, Pitch Anything, and pitched me. And I was like, dude, this is awesome. We can make this happen. I have a background in construction. I'm local, this, that, and the other thing. And we were kind of going back and forth about what was going on. And Ramsey has another partner out in Louisiana. And he's like, yeah, my partner, Brandon, and I are thinking about doing this. And I was like, yeah, man, let's jump on it. So we were going back and forth and kind of doing these three-way conversations, onesie, twosie, never really on a call. And that's when I said, hey, man, why don't you just bring me in? Let's see if we can, work something out. And we jumped on a three-way call, and Ramsey kind of brokered the deal. He sold me to Brandon and Brandon to me. told everybody that, I've never seen him lose at anything other than a chili cook-off. And,
they lost to me too.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it started. And then,
that's awesome, man. It sounds like this is one of those deals that at the time for both of you is like pushing the comfort level, had a little bit of experience, and it was that next thing, like you're dipping your toe in the water and like inching closer and closer to that light to figure it out what it is. Right. And you're like starting to put the pieces together. And so many people get these ideas like you, Ramsey, you're the visionary. It sounds like of putting this whole thing together. But they're just inching closer and closer, but never end up taking the full step to get there. And you guys have done that, which I think is cool because you gain the confidence of putting all the pieces together, the partners, the right experience. Joe, you had the construction. Ramsey, you had done the deals at that point, had gotten into syndication, and then had that other connection. So that's really good how you guys put it all together to make something out of it.
Well, let me say this, Blake, that was not a success story in the fact that deal did not go through. And there was,
I just mean a partnership.
Yeah. What I will say is if in any adventure that you take on, you need to define your definition of success. And it can either be in a dollar sign or it can be in a lesson learned. And if you only look at dollars whenever you're going forward, then you're going to fail miserably most of the time. But if you look at what can I take away from this, before we went after that it was a hotel, a block from Panama City Beach, 100 yards from two different beach accesses, a rundown building. We had it under contract for $250,000 less than asking. Everything was looking smooth, but it was in the middle of a pandemic, and we had a really hard time convincing banks to lend in the hospitality space. We did not ask for a long enough due diligence period to complement the COVID environment, right? But what that made us do is it gave us a little carrot in front of the whole team and said, we better get our stuff together right now. We started developing branding, logos, pitch decks, writing policies and procedures, put down an operating agreement, came up with a name. Everything that basically you need to start a business got started. And then at the finish line, we weren't able to close the deal. And I tell you that was right before I deployed. So we felt like we lost a lot of traction, but because we had a 45-day timeline, for 45 days, we were putting a business together and it worked. We have a business. That deal didn't work, but we started putting our name out there, and the next deal, another hotel, just fell in our lap recently right now. So I will say, even if you do fail if you don't win the deal, you get outbid or you get under contract and you end up falling out of it, define success on a lesson learned rather than a dollar made. Yeah,
that's really good. I'm glad you brought up that. And I think that last minute section of the episode is super, super valuable. Because I've been there myself, gone, right up to the edge of getting that deal, been under contract and deals that haven't worked out, and thought, man, what the heck am I doing? You think you rethink your whole direction. Maybe I'm not good enough. And then you just drill down and realize that that's what you have to do to be successful in this game. It's a competitive market. There's other people out there looking for the same deals that you are. So you just have to be persistent. And really, it's like real estate's the get rich slow game. You're not going to reach all your dreams and your unit goals and your cash flow and your passive income goals in one deal or even in 1 year. So you really just got to push through it. And like you're saying, take lessons away from each deal and each opportunity, even if it doesn't result in the success that you envision, because it sounds like through that whole process, that was the genesis of your story in the company, because you guys didn't have the focus. Now you got focus, you got real focus. Now you got real focus capital. Tie it all back in together. It's just like Elon Musk right now. I mean, how many times have you seen that guy crash a $20 million rocket and celebrate the loss because they learned something? Yeah. So, I mean, everybody who quits because it gets hard, they have no clue how close they are to success when they did quit. And if we would have quit because our first deal didn't go through, then we wouldn't be getting ready to close another hotel at probably, in my opinion, a better deal than the one we had under contract. Yeah. And I think really ultimately, the people that don't become, or the people that end up failures just didn't fail enough, because there's so many good lessons that come out of that failure. Sometimes, and it's happening right now in the market as a whole, especially in the stock market, people are just winning, right? They're just getting gains and not doing anything for it. I know we talked about this a little bit beforehand, but it's not even real investing, because you're not learning anything. You're not building the skills of, building a business and building a portfolio. So then when times actually get tough and it's, when comes time for the real winners to get ahead, because they know the actual things that are going to get them ahead. They don't build those skills.
Yeah. The guys who, like you said, we talked about this, the guys in the stock market right now. That's almost like being, starting to invest in 2011. And then all of a sudden you think today that you're the best thing since sliced bread, right? In a bull market, everybody is a winner. Right now, if you started,
not me.
If you started your investment journey today, you're going to have a lot tougher time because the market's very hot. It's peaking. So you'd be buying high, not knowing if it's going to go higher, but it's definitely got a potential to go lower. You don't know. In the stock market right now, people are making a ton of money on cryptocurrencies and whatever they're doing. I'm really not into stocks, but I can tell you what they're not doing is building generational wealth. They might be getting money. They might be getting money right now, but if you took that money away, would they be able to replicate that in a different market?
Yeah.
And I would argue to say that.
And what's curious too is I know some people, and I don't want to call him out by name, but if he hears this, he'll know this is him. Like when tax time comes due, he's like, "Oh man, I don't know if I got enough to pay off all like the gains I just made because now it's gone down, but I have all these like realized gains based on the time he sold out." But then he's getting other stuff that's come down, so it's like, man, tax time comes to hit you hard on the short-term capital gains too, which in real estate is one of those drivers that it's a tax advantage asset because it depreciates and you can 1031 exchange, all these different things to really maximize your return.
Absolutely, man. And for your listeners out there who are contemplating getting into stocks or getting into real estate, I mean, getting into any type of investment, all investments already, congratulations. Like you're doing the right thing, but make no mistake about it. Real estate is a wealth generator. Right. It's not a get you rich generator. Like you said, it's a get rich slow. But if you imagine that it's a generator that runs on 5 cylinders, right? And just like with a car, if your car is not running on all cylinders, you can get forward momentum. You can move, the car will crank, it will do things, but you're not realizing all of the potential power of that vehicle.
Ooh, that's
so
good.
If you're going to use real estate as a vehicle, there are 5 wealth generators. I call them the 5 cylinders of the generator, right? And I'll list them for you, and then we'll go in and I'll go into them individually so that your listeners can understand, like in depth, what they mean and compare them to what the stock market does. And the first 2 involve appreciation. The first one's going to be forced appreciation. Second one is market appreciation. The third one is your cash flow. The fourth one is your tax advantages, and the fifth one is your principal pay down. All right. So there are 1,000 different ways to invest in real estate, but the way that money comes back to you, all of it's going to fall into one of those 5 categories. And not every investment strategy in real estate realizes all 5 cylinders pinging at the same time. Right. And I'll explain what I mean by that.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you can get one or the other depending on the market or not.
Well,
several.
And I'll kind of talk to you a little bit about our investment strategy so that everybody has like an actionable step whenever they leave this podcast.
Yeah, please.
The first generator, forced appreciation, just listen to the word force. It is you actively doing something to make that property worth more than it was before. So think about fix and flippers. Think about somebody who does renovations on a property. Think about ground up construction. They took a piece of land, they added a building. Now it's got more value. They sell it for more and they paid for it. That's forced appreciation. It's a very active model. It's not necessarily passive income unless there's enough meat on the bone for you to pay other people to do it. But there's still a lot of heavy lifting involved in forced appreciation. Yeah. But if you buy something, renovate it, and sell it, you are not realizing the other 4 wealth generators: market appreciation, cash flow, principal pay down, tax deductions, because you haven't held on to that property long enough to realize those advantages. That forced appreciation is something I recommend everybody do. But if you do it and you sell it very quickly, you are missing out on literally your generator being able to produce the most power for you that it can to build wealth. Mm-hmm. But once you hold on to that property, though, if you hold on to that property, you start to realize market appreciation. Across the nation, real estate tends to go up in value about 3.4% per year. It beats the rate of inflation just about every market that you can predict. All right. So if you hold on to it, if it happens to be a hot market, and the thing about market appreciation is you have no control over it. You really don't. There's too much going on in your market for you to be able to influence that needle left or right. But if you buy in a good market, you have a much higher chance that all ships will rise with the tide. And right now, the real estate market, it's hot. It's hot across the United States. So if you bought real estate literally anywhere, it's rising in value, some markets more so than others, right? Yep. The next one is cash flow. And cash flow, simply put, is all of your expenses paid after all of your income. The money that's left over, that's yours to keep. Okay. That's what any investment that I make, that is the number one thing that I look to have is cash flow at the end of the day. Okay. Your tax deductions, just like you said, people in the stock market, whenever they make their money, they have to pay those capital gains taxes on that. You're not able to depreciate stocks. Stocks are not a tangible asset that you can go to the IRS and say, hey, this is going to lose value over the time. IRS looks at a building and says that roof's got to be replaced, the hot water heaters, the ACs, all those got to be replaced. So we're going to allow you to deduce that, to depreciate that. And we're going to allow you to deduct from the taxes that you owe to the IRS, right?
That's definitely my favorite cylinder for sure.
Tax deductions, especially of people with a W-2 income, high net worth individuals, they're in a tax bracket. They're paying, like, they literally have the worst business partner in the world, a 50-50 business partner who doesn't make any decisions, doesn't add any value, but takes half the income. That's called the U.S. government, right? So if you are a high net worth individual, you literally owe half of everything that you make to the government, unless you invest in real estate. If you invest in real estate, me and Joey and Brandon, we have strategies where we can go and do a cost segregation of a building, accelerate that depreciation, and literally cut you a check at the end of the year for your taxes instead of you having to pay them.
Yep.
And then the last
one I like about big properties is the cost seg, and then you get a big chunk of that depreciation, like you're saying, take your taxes to zero or you can get a check.
Yep. And then the last one that there is, it's likely the least effective. Nobody really realizes it until the end, until you sell. That's going to be your principal pay down. And typically you pay the most in interest up front in the first 5 years. But if you are actually holding on for generational wealth, after that 5-year mark, you really start to see the principal get paid down, and you can start to borrow money against your appreciation, your principal pay down, your forced appreciation, and then you can borrow that money to actually make more investments in real estate.
Yeah,
bingo.
Equity.
Yeah. So if your tax strategy, if your investment strategy involves buying a property, forcing depreciation, and holding on to it for a substantial period of time, you will realize all 5 wealth generators, depending if the market goes up. If the market goes down, if you buy wrong and you don't cash flow, if you don't hire the right CPA to get the tax deductions, and you over leverage yourself to where the principal pay down doesn't make sense, you can make a bad decision seeing all 5 wealth generators. You just have to be educated in each one of those, and you will build generational wealth.
Yeah. That's good. I think that's, I don't know if I know we've talked about a lot of those individually. I don't know if we had talked about them all together yet on the show. That was probably one of the best, like 3 or 4 minute segments we've had in, 30 something episodes. Cause that completely captures the power of real estate investing, why I chose to, invest in real estate. Like you're talking about earlier, the stock market. I don't think I have like a single dollar in the stock market right now. It's all in real estate because I'd rather focus on one thing and be really good at that. And another reason, like I think reasons why all 3 of us really like commercial real estate and the bigger purchase prices is all of those things are enhanced with the bigger property. So you get more tax benefit because you have larger amounts of depreciation. So that's going to go off your taxable income. The principal pay down comes in chunks of thousands per month on these big buildings. So you're building equity faster. When you force appreciation, it's over the cap rate. So you can add large, like hundreds of thousands of value by, putting less into the property. So you get huge swings in value and force appreciation, then market appreciation as well. So all that stuff is really, really good. And what I want to ask you guys is, what markets do you look at based like to get the most of those 5 factors, right? Because in California, you might have no cash flow. It's a low cash flow market, but you're getting a lot of appreciation. Here in Florida, it seems to be a good mix of kind of all five, because you get market appreciation and you can find cash flowing properties. And if you look at like the Midwest, you might have really low appreciation, really good cash flow.
Yeah, Florida's getting hard to find good cash flow. But,
yeah, that's very true.
Joey, why don't you go ahead and talk about that?
So Ramsey and Brandon, I'm going to tie it back to your apartments in Shreveport, Louisiana, Ramsey. Like you said, you get in there and not every win is based off dollar signs. It's based off of a lesson learned. So Ramsey and Brandon we're working on some multifamily assets over in Shreveport, Louisiana, and they just weren't doing as well as they predicted. And they got smart and they went to Neil Bawa boot camp, and they learned how to underrate markets, and then even how to zero in on specific markets. So by the time they had brought me on, that's what they were doing. They went through every single big city in the country, and then kind of jumped off into the secondary and tertiary markets to find which markets work best for that. And Ramsey, if you want to touch on it, what did he say to you guys? Like, we got to get out of here.
Oh, I was listening to, so I'd literally just done my 2018 taxes, and I did my Panama City taxes, sent them off. Everything was looking good. And then I opened up the book on the Shreveport properties and realized on 9 properties over 12 months, I'd profited $250. That is unsatisfactory, right? Like I hadn't lost
money.
That's
a big frowny face as far as returns go. Your ROI just equaled a frown.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, and that's money I've got sitting stored in real estate that is not doing anything. And I hated it. Right. So I called Brandon and said, hey, if Brandon lives in Shreveport, so I should back up and say that Brandon, me and him own another business together. We run baseball tournaments throughout the Southeast. He saw what I was doing in real estate. And every year when we would get our dividend checks from the tournament business, I would put mine right into real estate. And Brandon saw I was doing that. And that's, Brandon was not into real estate at all, but I know what Brandon is good at, and he is good at scaling something. He is good at task management. He is good at keeping me in track, because I'm like this psychopath when it comes to, I got all this stray voltage, man. I got a new idea every day, and Brandon will be like, that sounds great, Ramsey, but today we do X, Y, and Z. Yeah, right. And I need that. I need a it's like a yin and a yang, right? I need that guy. I will say it 100%. I think everybody needs a Brandon, to be honest. But he came to me. Great. He came to me, and this is a good point for any of your listeners. I was active in real estate. I didn't need any help at the time, but Brandon came to me, and instead of saying, hey man, can you teach me about real estate? Because I'm happy to talk about real estate, but I don't have the time to talk to everybody about real estate. And there'll be people I'll have conversations for an hour with, and then they don't ever do anything with it. I said, look, man, before I talk to you about real estate, he actually came to me and says, do you need help in real estate? What can I do to help you? I was like, look, before you even get into real estate, go read Rich Dad Poor Dad. He came back a week later, and he basically gave me a book report on what Rich Dad Poor Dad meant to him. I was like, whoa, you read that? He was that is my filter, right? That book is my filter. If you come talk to me and you haven't read that book, I'm going to tell you to read it. And if you come back to me and tell me what you learned, I will sit down and have a conversation, because it's a baseline. It's the entry fee, pretty much, right?
Yeah, it's your ticket for admission.
Yeah, and he said, well, I want to invest in real estate. I says, well, I'll tell you what, I don't need any help in Panama City. I got this, but wherever you live, here's what I do in Panama City. Do it there. Find properties that meet these metrics. Here's how you look at them. I did nothing deeper than a rule of thumb underwriting at the time, right? Basically, what's the gross potential rent times about 50%. If divide that by the cap rate, whatever that equals. Yeah. If it's 8, 9, or 10, I'm buying it, right? And I told him that. Well, the difference in Shreveport, Louisiana, and Panama City, Florida, was that people were moving to Panama City, Florida, and they were leaving Shreveport, Louisiana. In fact, one of my tenants in Panama City, Florida had moved from Shreveport, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I probably should have asked why.
Yeah.
So I said, Brandon, what's going on? He's like, look, man, everything that you told me, the numbers look good on paper until we have a vacancy, until we have some delinquency. People don't pay rent. The utilities are high, all this stuff. And I said, dang, man, well, before we move forward at all, we need to figure out why Shreveport's not doing as good as Panama City. And literally, like that afternoon, podcast from Neil Bawa, I was researching how to read a market. His podcast came up, and the guy said, well, give us a golden nugget. He says, you want a golden nugget? Here's a golden nugget. If you're investing in Shreveport, Louisiana, you need to sell now. And I was like, what?
That's like all you needed to hear. That was like,
what, man? And here's this dude was that
just random, or did he actually own in Shreveport at one point?
He didn't own. So, and this is why me and Brandon bought tickets to his, we flew out to LA to meet him and sit down and understand how to read markets. Cause I figured if this guy's speaking to me like this, doesn't even know I exist. If I meet the man up front, like he's going to have some good juju to give me. Yeah. And, so we sat down and talked to him, and he showed us how to analyze a market. And through data, actual data, not just gut feeling, actual data, right? And we took it a bit further than that. And I'm happy to go over the macro statistics that we do with your listeners if that's something.
Yeah, I don't think we need to get too deep into it, but I think it'd be good to like, what are some of the key metrics that you look at in a market, and then where can people go find that data? Because I hear this all the time, like they hear what I'm talking about, what the other guests are talking about, and I get questions, where do you find this data? Like, where do you get all this information?
Easy. Yep. So the first thing that the most simplest concept that I can say, healthy markets grow, unhealthy markets die. And if you think of what makes a healthy market, right? Well, in any market, think about what you want as a person, right? And where you want to live. The reason that people move to markets, they're leaving home, packing up, moving, going somewhere for a reason. Typically, it's because they have a job that pays them more money so they can afford a nicer house and live in a safer neighborhood. If you break that down into 5 things, we call these the 5 market vital signs. You go from population growth, so they can make more money, that's median household income, so they can buy a nicer house, that's median household value, and live in a safer neighborhood, that's analyze the crime rate. It's because they got a job waiting on them. So look at job growth. Those 5 things right there, that will tell you, it won't tell you how to buy real estate in that market, but it will tell you that market is good for real estate purchases. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. You can make a bad decision in a good market. You make a good decision in a bad market, but you are giving yourself the best chance possible if you look at a market and you understand the macro statistics before you dive into the neighborhood statistics.
Yeah, that's good, because I think those markets like Shreveport, you're saying, it's going to be really hard to do well there. It's just like Detroit before like the auto bust. It's like really hard to do well. I think Detroit's probably recovering, and people are, made millions in that market now. But in the past, it's really bad. But then if you buy in a place, like what's something that's grown a lot, Tampa, 20 years ago, that place has grown tons, and now there's tons of institutional money there. So if you find
think about
Jacksonville, Tallahassee.
Think about what your strategy is, right? So there are obviously people making money in Shreveport, but the play isn't multifamily, right? Because just imagine a market that is built out for 250,000 people, and they're losing 1,000 people a year. Well, those 1,000 houses that they lived in didn't go away. That's 1,000 vacancies. So if you ever see that the market is no longer building anything, it's probably a good sign that the builders realize that they have oversaturated the market with units. If a population,
sorry, go ahead. I cut you off.
Say, if a population is going down, then that means that market is dying, right? There's a reason people are leaving there. And so you asked, where can people find this information, right? So the best resource is citytacdata.com. You can go on there. You can find population growth, median household income, median household value, and the crime rates. But I'll tell you, what are you looking for? You got to know what you're looking for. What is a good market? All right. Think 20, 30, 40, 500 and above national average. If you can think of it in that order, if the population has grown 20% in the last 20 years, if median household income has grown 30% in the last 20 years, if median household value has increased 40% in the last 20 years, If the crime rate is below 500, which 500 is national average, you want to be below 500 trending downwards. You don't want an upward trend because that's a sign of delinquency. And if the job growth is above national average over 12-month history, so 20, 30, 40, 500 and above national average, if you can remember those things in that order, you'll successfully be able to analyze if a market is going to at least give you the best chance possible to own multifamily. Now, single family, multifamily, it's all different strategies, but trust me, this matters a ton in multifamily because you are buying a large chunk, 100, 200 units. Heavily depends on how many people live in that area, right? So if your play is fix and flips and single families and stuff like that, this stuff might not matter as much to you. It's very local for you. You can go into the different neighborhoods, but if you're buying 200 and 300 unit apartment complex, you really got to understand what that market's doing.
Yeah. That's very true because it's going to affect you more with that bigger property. But that's good. The 20, 30, 40, 500 above national average. That's good. That's a good actual tip right there. Another website that I have used to find the migration, like net migration, is Texas A&M University has a really great real estate data and analytics tool. So if you go look up Texas A&M real estate, and you can go on there and find the net migration of each market by year. So it'll tell you the net migration and percentage to say how many people are leaving that market and how many people are coming into that market. That's another really good source because population growth is probably the number one factor. Like if you're in a declining market in population, there's other reasons. It's probably because there's not good jobs, wage growth is down, crime's on the rise, delinquency's up, and the opposite is likely true, if you're in good location. So that's really good. So data is huge. So I'm glad that you listened to that podcast and got that lesson and found
the city data is great. Going to best places, for the macro side. And then we take it a step further, and then we'll go into a county assessor page and dive in even deeper to get into the micros to which neighborhoods are the best. And we apply the same tactics there.
Yeah, that's what I've usually done is I'll use like city data or best places. And we'll put those in the show notes too, guys. So if you're listening to this, go check out the show notes on multifamilyjourney.com/podcast, and you can see all these places. We'll put the links there. But yeah, start out with like that and find your market right. And once you find your market, you start to look at deals and then dig on the county appraiser, find out all about that neighborhood, about that zip code. Really good stuff there.
Yeah.
So with all that, let me jump in real quick, Ramsey. So with all that data, that Brandon and Ramsey, have compiled and really zeroed in on, we found five or six markets that worked really well with that model. The number one was Atlanta, and we didn't want to go up there. It was kind of outside of a wheelhouse, a lot of competition up there in Atlanta, but Jacksonville, Tallahassee, and pretty much and Tampa all had some really good metrics. And it's close enough for me on like the I-10. So we kind of expanded our horizons. And now we're investing all along the I-10 corridor, pretty much from the border of Mississippi and Alabama out there in Baldwin County, all the way over to Jacksonville, and then a little bit south down towards Gainesville. Yeah,
a lot of growth in that whole area. I know, especially our area, Joey, a lot of people coming from New York, the Northeast, even like Minnesota, Wisconsin, coming down here to the Panhandle, people from Alabama coming down, a lot of migration.
It's tough right now. There's a lot of competition out there.
Yep.
And people are taking.
Dude, man, that's another tough thing is because the demographics look so good in this area. You're right. When you said it earlier, it's getting more slim in Florida because there's a lot of people chasing the demographics. I think people are getting smart on that. And then money is just so cheap. You can borrow at sub 3 right now. Get 2.9, 2.8 on some of these multifamily mortgages. So I think that's a good pivot point for you guys. And it sounds like you made a little pivot at the COVID point to focus more on like short-term rentals or hotels. Is that true? Or are you guys looking just multifamily? I want to kind of work our way into the hotel acquisition, but how did you guys get there in the last year or so?
So Ramsey was deployed, and he was, really busy. He was, 7 or 8 hours ahead of us over there in the Bahrain time. So he was kind of detached from the very easy communication. he did a great job jumping on early in the morning or late at night, to stay involved. And it didn't stop him. He was always doing his own thing. So we would, kind of catch each other right before we would go to bed or when we woke up. And Brandon and I were, making the phone calls because Ramsey didn't have the capability really to make the phone calls to the brokers and to the property managers because of the time difference. So while he was gone, that was where Brandon and I spent a lot of the time on the phones, making those connections and really closing those gaps. During that time, Ramsey had a close family friend. This is kind of how we had this property fall in our lap. Had a close family friend that was selling a property, and Ramsey did what he does, and he packaged it all up and brought it to the team. And I'll kind of let you take it from there, how it worked and how it happened and how we kind of put this deal together so we could do a JV on this thing.
Yeah, so I love owning multifamily properties, but I like even more taking any type of multifamily property and maximizing the returns on via short-term rentals.
Yeah.
Like my analogy,
now we're getting into stuff I'm like,
yeah, my analogy is, look, you can go buy a bottle of water cold in the freezer at a 7-Eleven for the same price you can buy a case of water at like a grocery store, right? So I like to buy in bulk and then sell individually. And if you can sell something by the night, you're going to make a lot more money than selling it by the month. And if you can sell it by the month, you'll make a lot more money than you sell it by the year. So I look at everything and how many times can I sell this? How can I maximize the returns? Now, what I will say is everything I just told you about analyzing a market whenever it comes down to short-term rental, it's not the same dynamic. You are not selling a month or a year-long lease to another human who needs to live there. You're selling an experience, right? You're selling something unique, and they're just going to use it for a short period of time. So if you look at like people who live up in the mountains, you get a lot of people who vacation in the mountains, but there's not a ton of jobs there. So if you try and read a short-term rental market in the mountains, like you do a multifamily syndication, you're never going to buy anything.
Yeah.
So
you don't see many apartment complexes, up on a peak, but
yeah, exactly. Like it just
the tiny homes and stuff like that just, break
the metrics just don't add up because you're selling a different product. You're selling a nightly rental, not a home. Yeah. So the story goes, I put my name out there. I had invested in real estate for about 5 years, didn't tell anybody other than like close friends. I got Brandon involved, got Joey involved because I worked with them. Yeah. But I kind of kept it low key. I didn't really want to deal with other people. So I didn't put my name out there, didn't market or anything like that. And then started talking to a couple people and they're like, man, how come you don't tell any of your friends and family that I just hit my mic, that you're investing in real estate? I was like, I don't want to ask anybody for money, man. And they were like, well, you need to look at it as like you're providing them opportunity.
Yeah.
That's a different way of looking at it, right? Like, Ramsey, you're doing good in real estate. Don't you feel kind of selfish not telling all your friends and family like that? That's a whole different dynamic.
I had the same thing go on at when I got into multifamily, and you kind of get into that necessity of raising money when you don't just, when you don't come from a silver spoon or whatever and need to raise it to go put these deals together. But yeah, when you go from asking for money to presenting an opportunity, it just changes it for you. It makes
let me help you make money. How about that? Right? Like, I'm not asking you for money. I'm giving you an opportunity to make money. So you tell me if you want to invest with me. Like, I'm not going to beg you. Yeah. But anyways, I put a post out on Facebook. I'm talking one post out on Facebook. Says, I want to let everybody know that I'm investing in large multifamily real estate. Then we found the hotel that didn't go through. And I started posting to people like, look, I'm buying hotels now. This is a game of Monopoly, baby. Look at me. House, hotel. Mm-hmm. Well, a friend of mine hits me up. I mean, I'm talking about a girl that was in my wedding, right? Hits me up and says, my mom wants to sell her hotel. Do you know anybody who wants to buy it? And at the time I was under contract for a different hotel. I was like, no, I don't want to buy it. It's in a small area outside of Lake Charles, Louisiana. Well, 6 months later, I'm on deployment and she hits me up again and says, hey, my mom is about to bring this thing she's either about to put it on market. She's going to bring it to auction. She just needs to get rid of it. And I was like, well, why do you need to get rid of it? And that's what I didn't ask before, right? As a good friend of mine sitting there telling me their mom wants to sell the hotel. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, oh, she just wants me to buy this this old hotel off of her. Well, the reason that she wanted to sell it, it was because her husband had passed away and left her this.
Oh, wow.
And she wanted to spend time with her grandkids. She wanted to pull the money out and give them to her children. So in fact, I was looking at it the wrong way. And I'm like, well, now I really am like providing an opportunity to one of my friends. I really am, it's like, this is a good thing for both of us. So I chatted with her, and what she was asking for it based on what they were making on the hotel, we just weren't going to be able to see eye to eye. And so I got on Zoom. I underwrote the whole thing. I showed her everything that I needed to make it work, the price I needed, showed her a bunch of different scenarios. Talking, this is a family friend, and we agreed on a price. We're under contract right now. It's a as is contract. She just hired a contractor to fix everything that's wrong with it the same day the inspection came back.
Same day.
It's a as is contract, and she's doing that because she wants it to be nice for me. This is, again, it's a family friend. So I don't think this is something that's going to happen, but it's because the moral of the story is my friends would have never known to bring me a hotel. And this is a good hotel. It's been renovated like recently. They had a hurricane.
You gotta put yourself out there to, receive what the world can give you. If you never tell anybody what you're doing, how do other people know to bring value for you if you don't tell them what value you're looking for?
Exactly. And because of the relationship that I have with the seller, and I've worked with her. Worked with her for about 6 months on getting it to where we could make this deal happen. You know what made her go with me instead of putting it on the MLS? Because I told her, I said, I know what this hotel means to you. I know that you and your husband, this was like y'all's dream, and I'm going to keep it the way that it is. I'm going to keep the same name. And that meant more to her than the $sign, right? So actually being able to connect with somebody and figure out what motivates them to sell, because this was a true off-market deal, and off-market deals are hard to find right now. And this one landed in my lap only because I grew up and went to high school with her daughter and knew them. But still, you could see how most people would be like, well, whoever's going to give me the most money, I'm going to put on the MLS. But we were able to crack the egg on what she needed. She needed her time back.
So much more important than the price.
Yeah. She wanted her time back, and she lives 2 blocks from it. She wants to see it be successful and to know that it got passed on to somebody who's going to take care of it. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So that put your name out there is all I can say. Right.
Yeah, that's huge. And before we move on to the next section, I'll dig into this one a little bit. Like, what made you feel confident to operate a motel or a hotel, this being your first purchase? You got the single family, you got the multifamily, and have done that. But where's that come from? Because it's a little bit different than the short-term rentals I would expect. Well, you see,
let's start by saying it's an 8-unit hotel. So it's not like some Marriott or something like that, right? But it's currently being ran as a hotel, and I don't necessarily think that it has to be operated as a hotel. I think there's more of a short-term rental play because it doesn't necessarily have the economy of scale that justifies full-time staff. It justifies having somebody being able to turn everything over every day. With short-term rentals, you provide cleaning supplies so people can pick up after themselves. You have check-in, check-out procedures. You leave them some coffee and some tea in there, and you make it a unique experience.
So it's going to be more of that than the hotel, like that people come up to the desk and check in. It's going to be more of
it's a little more unique than a typical hotel. It's not just a plain old building with 8 bedrooms. This was a bank. It still has the vault inside. It still has teller windows.
Does it really?
It's awesome.
It's called the Bank Hotel.
That'd be super cool. Like kind of crack the safe, and get a
dude. It is the most unique building that I've seen. Like and it's beautiful. It looks like it's from downtown New Orleans. It's got 2 big, really big, those Louisiana porches, a balcony on the front of it. It's right on Main Street. It's Main Street Lake Arthur, Louisiana, which is like 2,500 people there. But there's a lake there. There's a lot of nature. It's like the bird watching capital of the world. So we're going to plug into that uniqueness of it being on what they call the Louisiana Flyway Byway, which is where bird watchers come to watch birds. Yeah. Well, if you're analyzing a market based on median household income, you're going to miss the whole idea that bird watchers come to this area, that there's festivals.
I wonder what the deal is with duck hunters. I could go there and.
Oh yeah. There's duck hunting all over the place, and it's got room for boat parking.
There you go. So you can cater to
and we'll give you a special rate, like.
Yeah, you can drive through the bank teller with your boat.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I'm really interested in this because I'm working on a property very similar. It was an 8-unit. It was operated as a motel, really shanty motel, like a rent by the hour place, that you'd see in like movies where bad stuff's about to go down and like the pre-credits, it's like dark. That was this motel.
Perfect.
But we're completely ripped it apart. It's down in the studs, redoing the whole thing. It's going to be beautiful when it's done. Really nice property. But mine's going to be similar. I don't have the cool, teller windows and arches and the vault. I don't have any vault there, but I think it's still going to, print cash like a bank, hopefully, is the idea once it's go.
Yeah, dude, so, literally buying it together.
But yeah, I really like this strategy. And what I've seen, and I don't know if you guys have seen the same thing, and that's why you're targeting more, but it's more of it's not as a crowded, competitive strategy to go find a property like that. And you got this one off market because you had the connection, but I don't see as many buyers for properties like this. So I think it gives you the advantage if you can set up a niche, which you guys are about to do. And what I'm doing down here in Florida is seeing a lot of upside potential and much better yield, especially for my time. Like the return on my time in the multifamily space, has been become kind of frustrating.
Yeah, it is a massive cash flow play. I will say that. It's hard to find lending. You're going to spend more in insurance. You're going to spend more in the lending environment because
of the things I'm running into too. Yeah.
Yeah, banks right now especially they don't necessarily trust the hospitality space, and rightfully.
What I'll have to do though is hook you up. I came across a really cool lender off of a LinkedIn connection, 30-year AM for. Anywhere from like 3.75 to 4.25. So I have to link you up with them. Pretty good terms for a property like this. They're looking at refinancing my 8-unit here.
Heck yeah, man. Send me that. We found a local bank. In fact, the bank used to be a Jeff Davis bank out in Louisiana. So we're if we don't have the bank that we normally use doesn't go through, I'm going to call the bank, say, hey, this used to be one of y'all's buildings. We actually have, it's like actually have y'all's, we have y'all's vault. We'll let you store your overflow cash in it. Yeah.
Yeah. In the vault. There you go.
Yeah. But it is a good strategy, man. Like, you got to get creative because right now, and like you said, Florida is a cash flow state. I beg to differ right now. We are seeing large multifamily going for lower than 6 cap. If you're going lower than 6 cap, you're having a really hard time cash flowing. All right. That's kind of like the cutoff if you're using debt services. Yep. But the people that you're competing against, they don't care about the returns that we need as individual signators. They're just trying to beat the S&P 500. And that's an easy thing to do in real estate. So they're dumping blindly a ton of money into the large, they're just parking money right now.
I just realized I was muted, but I was saying, they're just parking money in these other assets because the yield is so low. I mean, they're going to lose money to inflation. Real estate's going to beat inflation, especially with lending so low. So they're literally getting carried by the interest rates being so low. And it's just like, what you guys have found too, is just, I can't compete with that. And I don't know.
We can't.
Many who can. I mean, there's some guys still doing deals, of course. But I think they'd probably admit this too. They are taking a little bit lower returns, at least what I've seen. Maybe somebody's still finding great, like high teens returns, but I just haven't seen it in a while. And it's just, it's just a factor of where the market is right now. It's like other people are, just competing themselves out of the asset class. Everybody's teaching about multifamily and coaching on it and got all these programs and just bringing in more competition. I think, over years as this happened, and now you combine that with the market forces and you're seeing just low returns. So
it's crazy competitive right now. We dropped 2 LOIs this week on 2 properties in immediate no's because we can't compete. And they're like, you got to be over asking if you even want to get to best and final. And we've just,
which to me, oh man, it's in commercial, you're buying an income stream, right? It's not like the single family space where, you know, the one down the block sells a little bit higher and it continues to carry you up and you're building equity. Like it's all based on the income stream that you're creating. So, you know, you're not doing any, if it's not a value add play, which some of these are selling super low caps without any value add, which is like, why do you even do that deal? This is just venting frustrations, I guess. And you guys are going to, so at least I'm not the only one.
We share your sentiments, trust me.
So, but don't give up, right? Like don't give up because you have no clue how close you are to success the moment you quit.
Yeah. And I think that's why you pivot. Just by like persistence. And again, telling everybody what you do. I'm working on 3 off-market deals right now, offers pending on 2 and about to put in a third one that, you know, that aren't, you know, marketed, seen by a lot of buyers, which is exciting. But at the same time, like sellers know it's a crazy market right now too. And they know that they have the power, like they're the ones dangling the carrot. So just jumping through all their hoops has been hard. So I need a family friend to help me out here with that.
That's the thing about large multifamilies. You don't run into a lot of desperate sellers. You run into professional.
They're cash flowing. They're doing really well right now.
Yeah. And they're organizations, man. They're professional teams. The only reason that they need to sell is because their timeline is up and maybe the remaining limited partners don't want to extend a couple of years. They want to cash out. So they're selling, but they know what they can sell for.
Yeah.
But I will say, like what we're talking about pivoting, the people who have seen a hit this year are student housing. The people who have seen a hit is what I can say is you can find a lot more ma and pa sellers in the motel space. Think about who owns motels. Exactly. It's not
a desirable asset class. It's like the owner operator, like the people I'm dealing with right now. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm here to tell you that, like, if you can find a creative way to make it unique, I mean, people will stay in that thing because they're tired of they're tired of all the rules that they got to follow if they go to a large hotel. Many of the people don't subscribe to the point systems that you really got to have a good point system if you're going to be into some of these large Marriotts or whatnot. But for the working class, younger couples that they like going to an Airbnb.
Yeah, they're booking online. They're doing self check-in. Yeah.
They don't want to be hassled. They don't want to go to a front desk, especially during COVID. They don't want to walk through a lobby or share a pool or any of this. They want to pull up, punch in a code, stay, get out in 2 days. And they like the idea that they're saving a little money because they are not getting waited on all day. Right.
Yep. And what I like about this strategy too, is you have the flexibility because you're getting in at lower purchase prices, because you're right. You're dealing with mom and pop, you're dealing with off market deals. So you're getting into the lower purchase price, and you have that flexibility to, especially in a market like this, which you guys know, there's very little affordable housing, especially in bigger metros too. Tampa, I'm sure, Jacksonville, I'm sure there's not very much affordable housing, you know, in the employment or in the like the midtown areas where people want to be, where people are going. So to convert those to smaller units, I know a group or two doing this right now is taking motels and converting them to kind of long-term monthly rentals and making them just studios or efficiencies and renting them long-term in areas that have demand for affordable housing. So because you get in the lower prices, you can rent them out, what would be probably higher than your like studio or 1-bedroom, but less than a short-term rental and do really well.
It's the water bottle method, man. I'm telling you.
The water bottle.
Buy in bulk, sell it cold.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And that's there. I've always believed most of my rentals are 2-bedroom, 1 bath or below. I've always believed, and it's proven that there's always a need for a 1-bedroom, 1 bath. And you can do a lot of things with it. If you go buy a 5-bedroom, 3-bath house, there's only one thing you can do that, and that's rent it to a family. Or if it's in a great location, you can do seasonal short-term rentals and maximize your returns, because you can charge a bank load to a group and then probably pay your mortgage over the year. But as far as cash flow goes, you had got to be in a good location, and try buying in a good location, a big mansion right now, and getting anything to cash flow. It's going to be tough. Yep. But 1-bedroom, 1 baths, 2-bedroom, 1 baths. Think about it. If the economy crashes, you're still, food, water, shelter. Everybody needs shelter. And if people can't afford 5-bedroom, 3 baths anymore, guess what they're going to do? Push everybody out of the 3-bedroom, 2 baths, and all the 3-bedroom, 2 baths are going to collapse to a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and so on. But nobody's going to live in anything less than a studio. So you always have a customer if you're in the 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 1 bath space. I love it. I love it. That's my favorite space to be in.
Man, this is good stuff. Now we got me pumped up talking about what we're both working on here. I didn't know it was this exact strategy with the smaller one, but this is perfect, man. This is good stuff. All right, so let's transition now to the
Fortune 5.
So this is the 5 questions I ask every guest that comes on the show. And these first 2, I'll ask you kind of as a group, as a partnership. So for you guys, what's been your biggest mistake as Real Focus Capital that's turned into a learning lesson for you guys?
Go ahead, Joey.
I don't know. We make them every day. We're making mistakes every day, but like I say, we leverage those mistakes, and I would say the biggest mistake for me to date was still flexing on the COVID environment and still thinking that's the way things are, because that's what we thought was going on, and not asking the question to the brokers and keeping that line of communication open. We kept a couple things off of that last LOI that I think we could have been really, really competitive on, and we lost it. So to date, for me, that one's my biggest loss.
Yeah,
but he gave me some fantastic feedback on the back end.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Yep.
It was good. I was in the same boat, like June, July, August of last year, put in some LOIs, just, not knowing enough. And what I know now, I probably would have done those deals, but just left some things off those LOIs and wasn't quite competitive enough. So it's a big opportunity cost when you're kind of uninformed like that. So
I would say my answer to that would be not starting Real Focus 10 years ago, right? Investing by myself for 5 years, I did fine. But had I had the 2 guys that I got now back then, the think tank that we do, I mean, we go on, we call each other twice a week. We've hired coaches to get through our limiting beliefs that we have. We were thinking pretty small early on. And I tell you, the more and more we analyze these $10, $12 million deals, the more comfortable we get with putting in offers on them. Where when we first started,
it's reps,
$12 million. What are you talking about? $12 million? Who's going to give us $12 million? Well,
it's like doing reps in the gym, man. Like, you can't just bench press 225 day one. You got to start with like 185 for 10. Then you do like 205 for
maybe you
can. Ramsey still can't. Ramsey still can't bench 225.
Whatever.
He's still got the bar. He's still warming up with the bar.
Whatever, dude.
No, that's good. That's good stuff. So what's your guys' biggest, what's the biggest thing that has contributed to your success?
I'll jump off on this one. So that was the limiting beliefs. We were doing what we thought was next. We just kept going around in a merry-go-round. We were all reading our books. We were all listening to the podcasts. And we just thought we were doing what was the next thing. And I was driving down the road and I called them both up and I said, we got to do something because we're just, chasing our tails. And they're like, what do you suggest? I was like, we need to bring on a coach. Let me make a phone call. I think I got the guy that's going to do it. I made the phone call and they said, yeah. The coach said, yeah, I would love to, and brought it to these 2 guys, and we got it for a pretty good price for 6 months. And I would say how long have we had them so far? About 4?
About 3-4 months, yeah.
About 3 or 4 months. And the strides that we have taken, the breakthroughs that we've had with mindset and, just what we're doing overall, not even on a real estate side, just like individually based and like, how we're performing as people and waking up early and miracle morning type stuff. That has definitely been the biggest success marker for us to date.
Yeah. And I'll speak about the coach for a second. A lot of people will complain about the price of training and the price of coach, but they don't ever talk about the price of not doing something to get your team to the next level. Right. Yeah. And when you
I literally think you're talking to me right now, because I've thought about doing this and I've even pursued it a little bit and set up some calls. And then I keep stopping myself. I'm like, oh man, I'm too busy. It's not the right time. I need to have more like money in the business bank account.
It's the right time.
What's stopping you, Blake?
I just need to get over it, man. I can give you 10 different excuses, but they're just.
Well, give me your top 3.
They're just.
What are your top 3?
I mean, literally nothing good enough because I want to do it. I want to do it, and no excuse is going to be good enough.
So take action, man. Make that phone call tomorrow and set it up.
Well, look, I'll tell you this, Blake.
On the spot.
Here's what I'll tell you, because Joey's right. We were reading all the books. We were doing learning the deal syndicated analyzer, whatever it is, doing everything that we should have been doing. The problem was we didn't know that that's what we were supposed to be doing. whenever we hired a coach, I'm going to tell you right now, he has not taught us anything, but he has showed us the direction that we need to go in. He's basically just been like a confidence boost, because he's like, yeah, you guys are on the right path. He'll come in on a lot of the interviews that we have, and maybe he shows up, like we get on 5 minutes early or something. It's 30 minutes into the session. We haven't even asked him a question, because we've just been running with what we know is right. And we kind of know that if we start popping off, getting out in the wrong direction, he'll step in and say, hey guys, let's, focus here. But everything that we have done has been, we've read all the books. The information is there. We understand what we're supposed to be doing, but we, for some reason, had this doubt that we needed somebody in the room to help us. And it has helped. It's almost like when you pay for a gym membership versus if you have a gym in your house, you actually use it. Well, we paid for a coach. So we're like, we ain't gonna waste this money. We're going to get on these calls. We're going to take these steps. We had all of the action steps in our shared drive. We just weren't taking them because we didn't have anything holding us accountable. So if at a minimum, a coach holds you accountable, then that's a good coach. You don't have to learn. You just got to do. At the end of the day,
I don't think we'll ever go without one. From now until forever. We may outgrow our current mentor and our current coach. And then we just kind of upsize when we get into these bigger markets, bigger asset classes. But I don't think, for me anyway, that we would go without. Right now we're doing it on a team basis, and it's working extremely well. I think as we start to progress, we may have to each individually get our own, to bring different perspectives to the team in order to move this needle, at the rate that we want it to move.
Yeah, I might have to talk with you guys about this more offline and shoot you a message. But yeah, I'm right there. I need to just do it. That's good stuff. I don't want to hang up too much on it, but I'm right there with you. I need to take the leap. But for the next question, what is a book that each of you would recommend to someone starting out that's looking to get in and do this stuff?
So the one that it's actually the most recent one that I've purchased, and it's Bo Berry's new book, how to dominate in multifamily real estate investing. All of these different books that we read, Raising Capital, best ever syndication book. It's all there. It's all the same. It's all the same stuff. They just kind of market it, package it up in a different context. They're saying the same thing in different ways. Yeah. Bo Berry's new book. He's a broker out of Gainesville. He doesn't talk about that stuff. He's talking about how to transact like an investor who dominates. How do you talk? How do you communicate? And what are your timelines in order to do so? And since reading that book, I think all three of us have it. Since reading that book, we have drastically reduced the time from when we get a deal that comes across the desk to underwriting it, to the communication side, and how often we were talking to brokers and investors and things of that nature. So to answer the question, Bo Berry's How to Dominate in Real Estate.
I got it written down.
So I'll give you a book, and I'll give you a strategy from a book, because I don't think one of the books I don't think is that great of a book, but what you get out of it is been life changing for all three of us. The first one, the one I talk about, the strategy, is The Miracle Morning. Don't know if you've read it. The book itself.
Oh yeah,
I would.
Do my lifesavers every morning.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend reading the thing all the way through, but I would recommend figuring out a morning routine, taking some time. They will sit there and tell you that all the gurus do it, that all the rich people do it. Look, man, I do it. I'm neither of those, but I'm telling you, the days whenever I'm groggy or I'm tired, my wife will look at me and say, "Did you get up and do your morning routine?" And I'll be like, "No." But with the days that I have more energy, I'm task oriented. I'm wheeling and dealing. Like right now, I got up, took some time to myself, got a workout in, ate a healthy breakfast, did some breathing. I do Wim Hof breathing techniques. If you'd asked me when I was a kid if I was doing Wim Hof breathing techniques, I'd have probably slapped you. But I'm doing them, and they're helping me. It works, dude. You just clear your mind. You hit the main breaker. You let it. What's it? A 30-second reset on a computer. That's exactly what it is. And you start fresh every day with a reboot, and you have clarity, you've got vision, you've got task orientation, you start knocking it out.
Yeah. Meditation is kind of right along those same lines for me. Is like, that is the one thing I thought if you told me I would have been doing like 2 years ago, whatever, 3 years ago, I'd be like, dude, I'm not going to meditate. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. What's meditation going to do for me?
Get out of my
But
face,
man, you just
nerd.
reset your whole mind.
Beat it, nerd. Yeah, but I do it. I do it now, and you don't call it meditation. Call it sitting in silence. That sounds a little bit more hardcore, but I'm telling you, dude,
sit in my own silence. Sound like something Jocko Willink would say. I sit in silence.
I just sit in white noise.
Yeah. Wait, he gets up on the microphone like this. I sit in silence.
What are you doing right now with your life?
There it is.
Sit there and listen.
Do not sit in silence.
The second one though, which also a strategy, but just a shift in being able to figure out what's important right now. Remember, I told you I got all this stray voltage. It's not a book; it is Brandon, but that's the guy who dials me in. But the book that really helps me figure out how to get to my goals over time, right? Not just say, "Man, I'd like to do this one day." To say, "I'm gonna do this one day." It's called The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. And man, I'm telling you, if you go through that book, it will teach you how to look 5 years in advance, say exactly what you want to do, and then ask you, okay, if you want to reach that in 5 years, what do you need to do this year to make sure that happens? What do you need? I
might need to go reread that, man. That is such a good book.
I've got that thing tabulated, highlighted. I look back through.
In your copy, did it come with like the door hanger that said like, do not disturb, I'm doing my one thing?
I think so, yeah.
I don't know if there's anything that made my wife more mad than when I would put that on the door. And I was like, hey, I'm doing my thing right now. Can't be disturbed.
It just teaches you how to focus on like, hey, I got to do this today. And it's the only thing that's important. And everything else is just fluff. Everything else I've made up. So I feel like I'm doing a good job completing a task.
Yeah.
That to me, that is my favorite book. But the thing that I actually do every single day is the Miracle Morning. And the days that I don't do it, I don't have as good of a day.
Yep. Good stuff, man. So for both of you, what do you guys like doing outside of real estate?
I bought an adventure van. I call it the Vantion. It's a 2008 Dodge Sprinter. Yeah, the Vantion. It's like mansion, but
okay, it's the
okay. But so I mean, I live out in California, man, and there's just too much nature, too many national forests, national parks out here to not get out and check out nature. And I just got back from a 6-month deployment to Bahrain. Bahrain is it's a lime rock, like there's no nature there. But I bought an adventure van. The back of it pops down, turns into a queen size bed. It's got a little kitchenette in it. And me and the kids and the wife and the dogs, man, we just get up and we go camping. We go get out in nature, next to water, something. And that is what really refreshes me. And I love doing that.
That sounds like that would juice me up. That's exactly what I want. That's what I'm gonna do with on the next deal. I'm gonna burr instead of a recycle or repeat. I'm just gonna buy a van. Burr and van.
Burbav. Yeah.
Burr van. There we go.
Burbav.
Man. So last question here. Where can people connect and find out more about you guys?
So you can get us on realfocus.org and then our names at realfocus.org. Also, you can catch us on Facebook, Joey Biccum on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram as well.
Joey, I will say this, for the longest time, I thought like you were one of those dads that just comments on people's stuff because it's like a picture of like you or your son or something on a dirt bike.
Yeah, that's what we did, man.
I was like, this guy's not actually in real estate. It can't be. But no, it's true. He's actually doing deals. Love it.
That's hey, if you want to get a meeting with Joey on the weekend, good luck. Because he's out. The other weekend, he was like, I'm at the Grand Canyon in Georgia. So there's no Grand Canyon. Oh, it's Georgia's version of the Grand Canyon. It's 100 foot deep. Dude, you're at the Grand Creek of Georgia, bro.
No, what did you call it? The moderately sized canyon.
Yeah, you're the moderately sized canyon.
Yeah, that's what we do on the weekends, man. Cool. We got
Shoot, I skipped over you too. I didn't ask what you like doing on the weekend. I rolled right into the next question. Yeah, what? Yep. All right.
Yep. So my son races motocross, so we load up the trailer every weekend, and any given Saturday and Sunday, I'm 6 hours from Panama City Beach. We spend a lot of time at the motocross track.
His boy is sick too. Yeah, he's sick. Like
I've never owned a dirt bike, but I love riding them, man. They're so much fun. Your son will probably dust me though.
Dude, his kid's jumping. He's jumping.
He's 6 and he's doing really good. He's doing pretty fast. We're chasing a national championship this year, so we're gonna try to make it.
You're like the dad that yells at the baseball games, but you're like on the side of the motocross track, like throwing stuff in other kids' spokes. That's awesome, man. Awesome. So we got Joey at Real Focus, Ramsey at Real Focus. Like what social media are you guys on?
Hey, so I do want to do a plug for a couple of things. One, Real Focus. So any of your listeners out there, just like you do, look, if you guys are looking for a way to get into real estate but don't know how, right, and you want to be a limited partner on something, look up people like ourselves, Real Focus. Look up Blake and go in and just fill out the questionnaire. Figure out if you are a accredited investor or if you're friends and family, whatnot. And just take a look at what we're doing, because the deals that we have access to, you can actually passively invest versus putting your money into the stock market, not know what's going on. You'll get reports. You'll be abreast to everything that's happening. You'll learn something and you'll make a good return on your money. Second thing that I want to put out there is anybody out there who is a real estate investor looking to get their name out there, or you own a podcast or want to be a guest on podcast, go into Facebook and type in real estate podcast hosts and guests. Literally, we just started this Facebook group. We got 150 people strong in like 4 days, and the entire point behind it, and this is how we lined up this Facebook or this podcast right here. The whole point behind it is to get guests and hosts together, close the gap between each other, make it easy for us to get on and start building content for our listeners. So, real estate podcast guests or hosts and guests, and then join the group.
Yeah. Awesome, man. That's good stuff. And good plug about, investing. I feel like I don't do a good enough job, like promoting investments sometime, and what I actually do, or even the podcast at that point, to kind of just talk about it. And sometimes people listen, sometimes they don't, but I don't advertise enough maybe.
On that Facebook group, Blake, the guy, Mike Cavagioni out in Hawaii, he just posted like a guide. And I'm setting up my podcast right now called the Gorilla State Podcast. And that dude walked me through everything, how to get a logo, walked through how to set up forms, applications. I mean, it's just a wealth of knowledge. And I think he's putting together like a course. I don't know if he's going to make it free or charge, but hey, you want to start a podcast? It doesn't take long. Here's how you do it.
Yeah. It's actually a lot simpler than you'd think. I mean, I literally step into these interviews and record them and then send it off to my editor. And I record like the intro that I was telling you guys about separately. So it's 2 different recordings usually. But that's basically it. And then I prepare, I look into the guest backgrounds and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't spend any time on editing, which is like the only reason I do this podcast. If I edited it myself, I would not have a podcast.
Man. Blake, if you don't invite all your guests to our group, I'm not talking to you anymore. How about that?
To the Facebook group?
Yeah.
Oh man, guys, get on the Facebook group. I told Joey, I was like, I don't know if I just want to put on my calendar on there. And then somebody's like, I never bought a property, but I'd love to come on the show. It's like, I'd love to have you, but go, I need something first, but I'll get in there. I'll connect. I'll definitely,
you ain't got to drop the calendar. Just drop your podcast tile in there, and then
all right, I'll do that.
Then you can make those calls.
I'll let people bid out,
Yeah.
Just kidding. Well, guys, this has gone so long. I don't want to keep you. This has been an awesome show, though. Thanks for coming on. Super good content, and we're gonna have to go either van glamping or riding here soon together. So this is good stuff, guys. Thanks for coming.
All right, Blake. Thanks for having us on.
All right, we're out of here. Hey, thanks for listening. If you like the show, if you found value in it, please go to iTunes and leave a rating and review. And if you want to check out more on your multifamily journey, go to multifamilyjourney.com, where you can get free resources to start your journey and figure out your path. That's multifamilyjourney.com. But more importantly, go take action today towards your financial future. See you next time.